You're going to sign over 15% of this place to your brother tonight. Before close, my father said it the way other people say pass the salt. He was sitting at table 7, my best table, the one by the window with the view of the Nashville skyline, without a reservation, without a phone call, without so much as a knock on the front door. He had a glass of my house Cabernet in front of him that he hadn't paid for. My mother was beside him, scrolling through her phone with reading glasses perched on the end of her nose, already bored with the conversation before it started. My brother Connor was in the chair across from them, leaning back with his arms crossed like he owned the place. He didn't. I did. My floor manager, Sasha, found me in the kitchen 20 minutes before the dinner rush. She was holding her clipboard to her chest and looking at me the way people look at someone who just stepped into traffic. There's a family at 7, she said carefully. They said they didn't need a reservation. That you'd understand. I understood. I hadn't spoken to any of them in 4 years. I took off my apron, folded it over the stainless steel counter, and walked out through the kitchen doors into the dining room. The restaurant was beginning to fill. The low lighting warm, the smell of rosemary and charred oak moving through the air, the soft sound of the playlist I had curated myself filtering through the speakers. I had built every detail of this place from scratch. The reclaimed wood on the walls, the locally sourced menu, the name etched in brass above the door. Laris. My name. My place. My father looked up when he saw me and smiled like no time had passed at all. There she is, he said. Look how well you clean up. I stopped at the edge of the table. I didn't sit down. I needed the height. The small advantage of being the only one standing. You need to leave, I said. I have a full house in 20 minutes. We're not going anywhere. My mother didn't look up from her phone. We came a long way, Lara. The least you can do is hear us out. You came from Memphis. It's a 2-hour drive. Don't be smart. She set the phone down. Finally, folded her hands on the table. She looked older. They both did. Your brother needs your help. That's all this is. Connor looked at me then, and for 1/2 second, I saw something real move across his face. Not shame exactly, more like the shadow of it. Then it passed, and he was back to the crossed arms and the lean. Nice place, he said. Bigger than I expected. Get out. 15%, my father repeated. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and produced a folded piece of paper, sliding it across the table without standing up. We had a lawyer draw it up. It's clean. You sign tonight. Connor gets a silent partnership stake and we're done. No drama. I didn't touch the paper. You had a lawyer draw up a document giving my brother a stake in my business. And then you drove 2 hours and showed up unannounced to have me sign it tonight. We knew you wouldn't take our calls. There's a reason for that. Lara. My mother's voice shifted into the register she used when she wanted to sound like the reasonable one. Patient. A little sad. Your brother made some mistakes. He's trying to get back on his feet. You have this. She gestured at the room, the vaulted ceiling, the gleaming bar, the wait staff in their neat black aprons. You have all of this and he has nothing. Does that feel right to you? Does that feel like family? The word landed the way they intended it to, like a small stone against glass, testing for cracks. I thought about the last 4 years, the 37 unanswered calls I had made before I stopped calling, the Christmas I spent in my studio apartment eating Thai takeout alone because I had told myself I was fine. Absolutely fine. The 2 years I spent paying off a debt they didn't know I knew about, the loan my father had taken in my name when I was 19, using my social security number to cover Connor's first business. $32,000. It had taken me until I was 24 to find it on my credit report. It had taken me another year to pay it off. They didn't know I knew. That was important. I need to get back to the kitchen, I said. I'll have Sasha bring you the check. We're not leaving. My father's voice dropped. The smile was gone. You owe this family, Lara. I don't want to make it ugly, but I will. You want me to start talking to your investors? Your landlord? I know Frank Mercer holds your commercial lease. We played golf together for 12 years. One phone call and I can make your life very complicated. There it was. The threat underneath the smile. The reason they had driven 2 hours on a Tuesday. I looked at him for a long moment. I kept my face still. Give me until end of service, I said. 10 o'clock. I'll come back to this table and we'll talk. My father leaned back, satisfied. He picked up the wine glass again. That's all we're asking. I walked back to the kitchen. I did not panic. I want to be clear about that, because what happened next required me to be very calm. And I was. I had spent 4 years building something that could not be taken from me. And I had spent every single one of those years knowing, in the back of my mind, that this moment was coming. Not the specifics. Not this table. Not this Tuesday. But the shape of it. The return. The hands out. I texted one person. They're here. Table 7. Need you. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then on my way. Don't sign anything. Eleanor arrived at 8:45, just as the dinner rush was beginning to thin. She was my father's age and looked 10 years younger, silver hair cut close, and the particular posture of someone who had spent 30 years in courtrooms. She had been my mentor since I was a line cook at 22. The woman who had taught me the difference between a lease clause and a liability, who had looked at my first business plan and circled 6 things that would have bankrupted me and handed it back without a word of discouragement. She had also, once upon a time, been my family's next-door neighbor. She knew all of them. That was relevant. We sat in my office, a small room off the kitchen that smelled like coffee and printer paper, and I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, turning her coffee cup slowly in her hands. The loan, she said. The one in your name. Do you have documentation? Everything. The original credit report, the payoff receipts, the bank records. I've had them in a folder for 3 years. She nodded slowly. They don't know you know. No. And your father just threatened to contact your landlord, Frank Mercer. Yes. Frank and I are in the same professional association. We have breakfast every other month. She set the cup down. You don't need to worry about Frank. She was quiet for another moment. Here's what I want you to think about, Laura. You can call the police right now. Trespassing, extortion. That threat about your landlord crosses a line. I can have them removed in 20 minutes. I know. But if I do that, they walk out. Connor gets in a car and drives back to Memphis and the loan disappears. The fraud disappears. They've been holding that over me for 4 years without even knowing it. And I stopped. I pressed my fingers flat on the desk. I want it on the table. I want everything on the table. Eleanor looked at me for a long time. Then something shifted in her expression. Not a smile exactly. More like the acknowledgement of something she recognized. Tell me what you're thinking, she said. I told her. When I finished, she was quiet again. Then she opened her laptop. I'll need an hour, she said. Keep them at the table. I went back out to the dining room. The restaurant had quieted to its late evening rhythm. A few tables still lingering over dessert and coffee. The bar doing steady business. I asked Sasha to bring a fresh bottle of wine to table 7 and a cheese plate. Hospitality is theater. The optics of a daughter softening. When I approached, my mother looked up with the carefully neutral expression of someone who has been waiting and does not want to appear impatient. My father had his phone out. Connor was on his second glass. I appreciate you waiting, I said. I sat down. The word appreciate cost me something, but I paid it. I want to hear about Connor. My father put his phone away. He invested in a property development deal in Dallas. The partner turned out to be a fraud. Connor lost everything he had put in. Plus, the investors are coming after him personally. The number they're looking at is somewhere around $200,000. $200,000. He needs a stake in something real. Something with cash flow. The 15% gives him collateral. It shows the investors he has assets. It buys him time to negotiate. And if the investors come after the stake, if they put a lien on my restaurant. My father waved a hand. That won't happen. You don't know that. My mother reached across the table and put her hand over mine. The gesture was so practiced, so perfectly calibrated, that I almost admired it. We know we haven't been perfect. We know there's been distance. But you are the only one in this family who has what it takes to fix this. Connor doesn't have your discipline. He never did. You were always the strong one. The one who didn't need anyone. She paused. We counted on that maybe more than we should have. But right now your brother needs you to be strong one more time. It was a good speech. It reframed their neglect as evidence of my capability. It transformed 4 years of silence into a compliment. The specific, twisted arithmetic of people who have never once considered that their accounting might be wrong. I nodded slowly. Can I ask you something? Of course. When I was 19. The money. Do you know what I'm talking about? A flicker. Too fast for Connor to catch. But I had been watching my father's face for 28 years. I saw it. I don't know what you mean, he said. The loan. The one someone took out in my name. $32,000. The one that destroyed my credit for 3 years, and that I spent 2 years of my life paying off. I kept my voice even. Conversational. The way you talk about something that happened to someone else. I'm not angry about it. I just need to know if we're being honest right now. The table was very quiet. That was a mistake, my mother said. Finally. Her voice had changed, thinner now. We were going to pay it back. But you didn't. We intended to. And when I found it, when I called you that first time, and you told me it was my responsibility because I had been living under your roof and eating your food, and that this was just what family does. I stopped. I took a breath. I've thought about that conversation a lot. About that specific math. That I owed you for existing. Connor hadn't moved. He was staring at the table. I'm not bringing this up to fight, I said. I'm bringing it up because I want us to be honest with each other. If we're going to do this, if I'm going to help Connor, I need everything on the table. My father cleared his throat. Fine. The loan was a mistake. We handled it badly. But that was almost 10 years ago, Laura. You've clearly done well for yourself. You've moved past it. I have, I agreed. I just wanted to say it out loud. I stood. Let me get the paperwork from my office. I want to go over a few things before I sign anything. Eleanor was at my desk. She had 2 documents in front of her and a legal pad covered in handwriting. She looked up when I came in. How are they? Comfortable. The wine helped. I looked at the papers. Is it ready? It's better than ready. She slid the top document toward me. The structure is this. You're not signing over equity. You're offering Connor a business loan secured against his personal assets, framed as a partnership investment for the purposes of showing his creditors collateral. It's legal, it's clean, but the asset guarantee is real and it's enforceable. If his creditors come after the stake, there's no stake. There's a loan note. And the note pulls his personal assets before it touches yours. She tapped the second document. And the recording, completely legal in Tennessee. One-party consent. You're the party. She tapped the second document. But here's what I need you to do. I need your father to explain the original loan. The one in your name, on the record. Not because we're going after him tonight. Because if this ever ends up in front of a judge, I want a foundation. And if he won't say it, he will. You already started the conversation. He's 3 glasses in. He thinks he's getting what he wants, and he doesn't think you're recording. She looked at me steadily. Laura, you can still just call the police and end this tonight. I know. You understand that what you're doing instead is harder. I know that too. All right. She handed me the folder. Then go finish it. I fixed my hair in the small mirror on the back of the office door. I let my shoulders drop a little. I practiced the expression I needed. Not defeated, not angry. Just tired. The look of someone who has been fighting for a long time and has finally, reluctantly, decided that it's easier to stop. When I came back to table 7, I set the folder on the table and sat down. I've been thinking about what you said. I looked at my mother. About being the strong one. I let a pause sit there. You're right that I've always handled things myself. Maybe that made it easy for everyone to assume I didn't need anything. I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be the one who handles it alone. My mother's expression shifted. The wariness replaced by something that looked almost like warmth. That was the thing about giving people what they expected. It disarmed them completely. So I'll help Connor, I said. But I need to do it correctly. For my own liability for the restaurant. I have to record this conversation. Tennessee law requires documentation for any business transaction over $10,000 where a verbal agreement is made prior to signing. It's just a formality for my accountant. I set my phone on the table, propped against the small candle at the center. I pressed record. I need you to state that this transaction is a secured business loan from Lara's LLC to Connor. I paused. What's Connor's legal entity right now? Do you have an LLC? Connor shifted in his seat. It's just me. Personal. Okay. So this is a personal loan secured against Connor's personal assets. I need you to state that for the record so my accountant can categorize it correctly. It keeps it off my personal tax return and books it as a business expense. Otherwise, I'm looking at a 40% tax hit. My father's eyes moved to the phone, then to me, then back to the folder. I could see him doing the math, or what he thought was the math. He saw a daughter covering her bases. He saw paperwork. He did not see a trap. Fine, he said. He straightened in his chair with the unconscious dignity of a man who believes he is running the room. I, Gerald Sloan, am authorizing this transaction between my daughter's company and my son, Connor Sloan. The purpose is to satisfy Connor's personal debt to his investors, I supplied gently, while providing collateral for further negotiation. Connor has no liquid assets at this time to cover the obligation himself. And just so my accountant has the full picture, I kept my voice light. Offhand, she's going to look at the full history of financial interactions between me and the family. It helps her establish that this is the first formal transaction, not part of a pattern of gifts. So I need to mention, just for the record, that there was a prior incident involving a loan taken in my name when I was 19. Just so it's documented as a separate event. The table was quiet. You want me to mention that on a recording? My father said slowly. It helps me actually. It shows the prior transaction was informal and unilateral, which means this one, by contrast, is structured and consensual. It protects the restaurant from any appearance of family financial entanglement. I looked at him steadily. It actually works in your favor. It makes the old thing go away officially. He believed it. I watched him believe it. The moment the resistance fell away, and he decided the easy path was the honest one. There was a loan taken in Lara's name approximately 9 years ago, he said, looking into the camera of my phone. Approximately $32,000. It was used for family purposes. It was handled informally at the time. He cleared his throat. This current transaction is separate and distinct from that. Perfect, I said quietly. Thank you. I slid the document across the table. 11 pages. Dense. Real. Sign on the flagged lines, I said. Connor on the borrower line. Dad and Mom as guarantors. Connor picked up the pen. He looked at the page, and for a moment, just a moment, something crossed his face. A hesitation. What does this clause mean? He pointed to a line near the bottom of page 6. Asset guarantee, I said. Standard for secured loans. It means that if you default, my company has a claim on your assets before any other unsecured creditor. We're not a bank. I know, but I have to follow the same documentation standards or my investors get nervous. I paused. Connor, if you pay this back, which you will, none of it matters. The clause never gets triggered. It's protective paperwork. That's all. He looked at me for a long moment. I held his eyes and let mine be soft. Tired. A little sad. The look of a sister who has been worn down to something gentle. He signed. My father signed without reading it at all. My mother signed after looking at the signature lines and nowhere else. The pen was still in my mother's hand when my phone buzzed on the table. One message from Eleanor. Transaction complete. Asset search done. He has a house in Franklin in his name. Equity positive. I picked up my phone. I stopped the recording. I need to tell you something, I said. My father looked up. The money I was going to wire to Connor's investors, I wired it this morning. But not to them. I set my phone face up on the table, so they could see the screen. I bought the debt note. I paid his investors 60 cents on the dollar. They were happy to take it. Connor was already a default risk and they wanted out. Silence. What does that mean? Connor said. His voice had gone flat. It means I'm his creditor now. The $200,000 is still owed. It's just owed to me. The document you just signed confirms that the loan is a personal obligation secured against your assets, with no liquid means to satisfy it. I turned to my father. And you just confirmed on a recorded conversation that you previously took a loan in my name without my consent, which is fraud, which has a 6-year statute of limitations in Tennessee. I paused. I'm not going to the police with that recording. Not tonight. But I'm going to keep it. My father's face had gone very still. You can't do this, my mother said. Her voice cracked for the first time. Laura, you can't. This is your family. Connor. I turned to my brother. The anger I expected to feel wasn't there. What was there was something quieter and more permanent. I spent 2 years of my life paying off a debt I didn't take out. I rebuilt my credit from nothing. I built this restaurant without a single dollar from any of you. Without a phone call. Without a cosigner. Without anyone in this family showing up once. Not once. Not when I got the lease. Not when I opened. Not when I won the Nashville scene's Best New Restaurant 2 years running. I stopped. I would have helped you. If you had just called me. If any of you had just called me like a person and asked. Connor didn't say anything. He was looking at the table. The asset guarantee gives me a legal claim on your house, I said. I'm not going to foreclose on it. I'm going to have Eleanor file a lien, which will prevent you from selling or refinancing without satisfying the note first. You'll make payments on a schedule she'll send you. 3% interest. It's less than you'd get anywhere else. This is extortion, my father said. His voice had changed. The ease was gone. What was underneath was something harder and smaller. It's a legal business transaction that you agreed to and signed. I stood. I picked up the folder. I'm going to ask you to leave now. Sasha will bring the check for the wine and the cheese. We drove 2 hours. There's a Marriott on the highway. Eleanor can recommend a good one. I pressed the small button under the edge of the table. The same silent alarm I'd had installed when I opened, the one connected to the Nashville PD non-emergency line. They would send someone to the door in 10 minutes. Just enough time for everyone to understand the conversation was over. I leaned down toward my father, quiet enough that only he could hear. You just confessed on a recording to taking a fraudulent loan in my name. I have been carrying that for 9 years. I want you to understand that I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because I am done being the only one in this family who pays for things. I walked back toward the kitchen. Sasha caught my eye near the bar. I gave her a small nod. She turned toward table 7 with 2 menus pressed flat against her chest, and I pushed through the kitchen doors into the warmth and the noise and the smell of my restaurant. Eleanor was waiting in the office. She looked up when I came in. It's done, I said. She held out her hand for the folder. She opened it, checked the signatures, checked the pages in order, and set it on the desk. Then she looked at me. How do you feel? I thought about it honestly. Like I paid off a debt, I said. She nodded once. The way she nodded when something was correct and didn't need elaboration. 6 weeks later, Eleanor filed the lien. The court processed it without incident. Connor set up automatic payments in January. Small ones, manageable, the kind that would stretch across years. He never called to argue. He just paid. My father called once, from a number I didn't recognize. About 3 weeks after that Tuesday, I let it go to voicemail. He talked for 4 minutes about fairness and family and legacy, and what I was doing to the people who raised me. I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. The restaurant had its best quarter in March. I hired 2 new line cooks and extended our hours on weekends. The reclaimed wood on the walls had aged to the exact shade I'd imagined when I first sketched the room on a cocktail napkin in a diner at 2 in the morning. Working a double shift, 23 years old, and certain of nothing except the shape of what I was building toward. My mother texted me once. For words. I hope you're happy. I looked at it for a long time. I typed back 2 words, and I meant both of them. I am. Then I blocked the number, went back to the kitchen, and got to work.